I'm Natalia Lobach, and this is Change Course. For the Newbies, the name of the game. We're back at the Change Course podcast after a short hiatus. There have been a lot of changes in the last month, and I'm excited to start to share those with you over the next few weeks. So stay tuned because there's lots to come. Thanks for your patience, and I'm glad to be back. One of the things that I often get asked about is I'm a new practitioner, I'm a new change manager. Where do I get started? So in this episode, in this series of 4 episodes, I'm going to go over some of the things that you need to start in your starting toolkit as a new change manager. And as we get into it, I called this episode The Name of the Game because by nature, when you're getting called in to help a project or help an initiative change, it's not because the change is going to be easy. Change, by its nature, is challenging, and organizations that do change well typically don't need help with this. There are organizations who are very sophisticated and do amazing work in change. They have cultures that are focused on innovation and change. Change is part of the work that they do. It's not something special that they need to introduce and roll out in response to a specific circumstance. But often as change managers, we get called in to help initiatives be successful. And typically, when you're going in to an organization, or, at least the organizations who call me all the time are the ones who actually need help or acknowledge that they need help with the change. And this could be because they've had a poor history with change and they realize they need to do things differently. Maybe they've had a change failure and they don't want to have that happen again. Or it's a type of organization or a type of culture that relies very heavily on things working the same way, things remaining the same within the culture and within the organization. So if you are an organization that isn't innovative, maybe you are a service organization and you really need to focus on providing a certain level of service to your clients or your customers all the time. Maybe you are an organization that is in the business of producing something. And you may have innovation around your product. You may have innovation in specific pockets of your organization. But for the most part, your organization is successful, or the organization is successful by being consistent, by producing something of a high standard, by making sure that things operate at a high level of efficiency. These organizations, because they rely on standardization, high quality of services and goods, typically change is harder in these types of organizations because their organizations are built in a way to resist change. So all that to say, the name of the game with change, and typically when you're a new change manager being called into an organization, is expect that the road will be longer than you expect, and it's probably going to be a little bit bumpy. There are 2 groups that you need to consider as you're coming in to the organization. The first group is that group of leaders or people who are the ones who are saying, we need this change to happen. Typically, that group is going to be in charge of leading the change. Typically, they're going to be senior management, and they already see the benefits of having a successful change. They want what's on the other side of that journey. They're sold. So it's really important to pay attention to this group and very clearly understand what their motivations are, why they want to change, what are the benefits that they expect to see. So the thing to remember is that the second group is, by and large, the organization. At the point that you come in to the organization, that group will largely be unaware of the change that is coming. And so your presence as a change manager can sometimes be controversial. It can sometimes raise stress and fear among the people that you're going to be working with. And so it's really important to remember the difference between these two groups. The folks who are leading the change are out in front. They've already made the commitment. They want that change to happen. But there's a divide between them and the people to whom the change will happen. So, big difference. The leaders, they are implementing, leading, defining, driving that change. And then the rest of the organization who are going to have the experience of change happening to them. In all of the previous episodes where I've talked about this, I have talked about how that creates fear and resistance. And the reason why is because we are all human. We like to have control and autonomy over our own lives and environment. It's really important to us. And that sense of control and that sense of autonomy, that we are in charge of our own lives, that we are in control of our destiny, is hugely important to us as humans. And any potential threat that comes in to affect or take away that control will create fear and it will create resistance. So, this is also related to the power structure in the organization. So those who are leading the change typically have more power and influence, and those who are receiving the change typically have less. Often in organizations that are built to withstand change, you'll have a very strong hierarchy. You'll have very strongly defined power structures. And so this needs to be considered as well as you come in as the new change manager, leading or designing or coaching and helping these leaders implement this change that they want so badly. The key divide that you're going to have to bridge is between the leadership and the leaders who are responsible for that change and those that they lead. And so much of your work, much of your impact and success will be found in this empty space. If you want to be successful, one thing that you can do that will really help bed down your success, help you accelerate, and help you be successful in bringing about the change is to provide a bridge between the leadership and the people. And so there are a number of ways that you can do this. Number one, you can help leaders understand that their people are always going to be a few steps behind. That the conclusions that they've drawn are not going to be conclusions that the people naturally draw. That their understanding of the benefits of change may not be the same as what their people perceive. So helping leaders understand that the most important role that they have in the beginning phase of change is really to listen and to ask questions and to open that door to dialogue. This is the most important thing that a change leader needs to do at the beginning, the very beginning planning stages of that change. This will set up their change for success at every single point down the road. Instead of starting with preaching, teaching, or speaking, they need to start with listening. And it is possible to introduce the idea or the concept of the change that is being thought about, discussed, or even if it has been decided. But there is so much empty space between what result we want to achieve and how we achieve that result. There's a lot of empty space there. And while leaders may have a very specific idea about how they want to go about and achieve that result, I actually take a different approach. And there is a lot of opportunity to work with people that we're leading to find a new way, a third way, a way that meets multiple needs in order to bring about that successful change. This period of listening and conversation and dialogue at the beginning of the change also sets leaders up well for when they need to communicate later on in the change process, and for when they need to build support for when things actually need to change. Also, for when they need to negotiate some of those trade-offs as well. So sometimes negative things or losing and letting go comes with change, and leaders need to ask their people to step up and perhaps give up some things or do something that they're less inclined to do in order to achieve a broader benefit or a greater goal. This period of listening puts into place a stronger trusting relationship at the beginning of the change that then reaps dividends later on as you go through the process. It is critically important. One of the things I often deal with change leaders is fear around this phase. So fear that if they go out in front of their people and say, this is the change that we are seeking to make, that their people will reject it. And yeah, that can happen. It can happen if the message isn't one of listening. And so if leaders can go out and say, either this is a change we're considering, we want to hear what you think about it, or this is a change that we're being forced to make. Help us understand how we can make this work. It's a very different message than this is a change that we have to make and we're going to do it together. That type of message assumes a lot of loyalty and a lot of commitment that may or may not be there. So why not ask the question? Why not lead with the question and ask first? So working through the fear with the leader is one of the key things that I come up against at the beginning of every change initiative. And it's an important step because a lot of the time it's a new way of leading. It's a point of vulnerability for leaders. And this can be a big step for them to be vulnerable in a way that they haven't been before. As we move into that planning and definition, helping leaders understand and be empathetic towards their people is really important. So helping them understand that their people are going to take longer to reach the place where they are. Leadership by nature is being out front. And sometimes we need to remind leaders that sometimes when they're out front, they're going to feel like they're largely alone. It's going to take different skills. Sometimes you've got to lead from the front in change. You can't lead from behind. You can come around and help people move that are really lagging, but change leadership is an out front leadership. It's not a collaborative style of leadership. It is not a leader being part of the team and doing everything by consensus. You have to make decisions, hard decisions in your role as a change leader. That's another piece that I often have leaders struggle with, is the decisions around change. And especially if they're highly collaborative leaders, this can become a point of tension. This can become a point of leadership resistance as well. So helping them understand that their people are always going to be a little bit behind them, which is normal in change, because you're really leading them into the unknown, into that uncertainty. Vulnerability is really important as a change leader as well, as I mentioned. So listening, having that point of vulnerability as a leader. And then also being able to revisit and be vulnerable at different points within that change. So your role as a change manager is to help leaders understand the benefit of these things. Your role as a change manager is to coach them and lead them and help them understand why that bridge is important. Then when you are working with the people who are experiencing that change happening to them, as a change manager, the most important thing you can also do is listen. There are things that the people will tell you that they will not feel comfortable saying to their leader. And so there is an important bridge role there to listen, provide feedback, gather intelligence, and help leaders understand with empathy and kindness how they can connect better with their people through a time of uncertainty. It's really important as a change leader that you do not break trust in this role. So it is imperative that if you are hearing things and that you want people to trust you and listen, that number one, you have to pull together and present sentiments and feelings and thoughts and facts as aggregate. So no naming names. And you've also got to help the leadership understand that the feedback and what you're hearing is coming from a place of a desire for mutual success. So there may be trust building that needs to happen between people in leadership. That's your role as a change manager. That is a key role, because if you do not bed down and establish that trust in the beginning, it will create more problems down the line. When we talk about things like resistance, when we talk about things like engagement, change champions, all of that, that's where the trust piece is really important. And in a time of uncertainty, their doubts can come in, trust can be eroded, and that's natural and normal. Your role as a change manager is to step into that gap and facilitate trust building, listening, understanding, and finding out what is that third way where we can work together and fill that space of how we change effectively. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard, I invite you to like, share, rate, and subscribe because it helps others find us. You can find our show notes on our website at www.charthouse.ca, where each episode has a page under the Change Course podcast. So anything that I referenced in today's episode will be posted there so you can find it. While you're visiting us, sign up for the Change Navigator newsletter. You'll get a monthly dispatch of all things change, what we're working on, and our latest research. Our music is Levity by Emily Clausen. Change Course is available wherever you listen to podcasts. We also have an accessible version on YouTube with fully edited captions. You can find the link to our YouTube channel in the show notes. Thank you again for listening, and remember, it's never too late to change course.